Ladles and jelly spoons, welcome back to Badgerworks. No, there is nothing wrong with your phone or monitor or TV or whatever you're watching this on. The screen is indeed black because today, this. Yes, yes, we've got ourselves a new Resin 3D printer. This is the Elegoo Mars Pro, to be exact. And there's a very good reason I bought this. I do have a resin printer already. It's a Spark Maker on Kickstarter. I think I've mentioned it before, I think. And I've probably also mentioned that it has never worked properly. And I have tried and tried and tried and tried, and I've wasted so much time and so much money trying to get this thing to work. And in the end I was just like, do you know what? I'm done with it. So I went out and I bought this. And yes, I did buy this. This is not, like a freebie or something. I mean, it'd be nice if it was, but it wasn't. This has been bought and paid for, so I can say what I like, basically. And I thought you might be interested in seeing it. Now, I'm not going to do some big unboxing video. I don't do that. If you want to see an unboxing video, go and watch someone else. I'm going to take it out of the box. I'm going to set it up. This is not where it's going to stay. This is just where I'm putting it because it's easier to film it here. And then we'll go from there and we'll see how well this thing works. So, let's get on with it. Right, so I've taken the printer out of the box. It was very well packed, I'll give them that. And it was easy to unpack, even better. So the printer comes wrapped in like foam, and obviously contains the print bed. The print bed, I haven't taken the cover off yet, but I don't know if you can see that, but you see there's a pattern on it. Well, that pattern is machined into the surface to aid with adhesion. So we'll see how that works. I'm just taking the stuff out of the box because I need to get some bits out. So there's a little measuring cup with the USB stick and some gloves. That you won't need those, I've got loads of gloves. Oh, a scraper. Metal scraper. No expense spared. The power lead, that's what I was actually after. Oh no, this is a gasket. It's like a rubber gasket that goes around the bottom of the cover, which apparently is to help stop the smell. So we'll need that in a minute. What else have we got in here? Oh, there's a plastic scraper. Now, I've seen a couple of people using these things online, and these plastic scrapers just snap. But, whatever, it's... what's that? Oh, I know what that is. So again, I've watched a lot of videos on this. This basically is a little gadget to help drain the prints. So what you do is when it's finished, you take the build plate off, you attach it to this like that, and then this is at an angle, as you can see. And so you slide that over the mount here, and it basically holds it at an angle like that and lets the resin run off. So that's useful. Okay. Oh. Sign of the times, perhaps? No, you are supposed to wear a mask when you're using resin. So, right, what have we got here? Oh, that's interesting. Discount cards for My Mini Factory, or oh, hang on. Is the camera showing that? My Mini Fat Corey. Anyway, whatever. It's they're handy discount cards. Never a bad thing, I suppose. What are these? Oh, these are filters. So you when you're pouring resin, you pour it through this, and they have like a micro mesh, so that you get any lumps out. Set of cutters, that's handy. I think these are Zupcon. I think these are a rip-off of Xuron. Yeah, they are. Probably made in the same factory. Oh dear, they look a bit crusty. But you know, free cutters, can't hurt, can it? That's fine. Allen key screwdriver. And oh, look at this. Oh, now that's, I like that. Look, not only do they give you the Allen keys, but they give you spare screws. Now that is a good idea, because these, if you dropped one or lost it or something, there'd be a nightmare to get replacements. So the fact they give you spare screws, that's good. I like that. Anyway, most of this we can put back in the box for now because we don't need it. What we really want is the power supply. First of all, because we've got to turn the thing on and get it leveled. We'll put our discount cards for mini fat Corey. Stop laughing at the back. Anyway, right, now there is an instruction book, and this is what I've been looking for. So, oh, it tells you in there what you get. Never mind. Follow us on Facebook to get free FEP film. Okay, I shall have to do that. Free is my favourite number. Right, text specs, don't need those for a minute. Unbox and test, this is what we want. Take the printer out, take off plastic film. Connect the power cable to the printer and power supply. Insert the build platform, fasten the rotary knob and loosen the screws. Right. Now, we're not going to be able to do that because if you look at these pictures here, it's up here at the top and ours is down here at the bottom. Well, we'll see what it does when we turn it on. It might go clattering off to the top. Right, so let's plug the power in. Right, so just talk amongst yourselves for a minute. Right, so the power's plugged in. Let us switch this on for the first time. Oh, screen's lit up, that's a good sign. Right, so that hasn't gone anywhere, so the instructions are not very helpful at the moment. Remove the resin tank. Right, okay, I think we're going to have to figure this out. Right, so we'll go tool, manual, so that's got 10mm, so let's move this. I'm assuming you press that. Oh, there we go. Right, so let's move it up like that. So you can move, I don't know if you can see that screen or not, but you've got basically manual movements for 10mm, 1mm and 0.1 of a millimetre. So I'll just move it up a little bit. So that's about 50mm. Now it does say, where is it? Remove the resin tank. So let's take that off. Alright, let's just put that to one side for a minute. Now let's take the plastic off of this. Ooh. Shing. Right, there's that. Okay, so let's loosen these off. Right, we'll do this with some decent tools. My old snap-on quarter drive set. So let's just crack those loose and crack that one loose. Oh, look at that. Right, so that's just dropped, and oh, it's spring loaded. Oh, that's interesting. Right, okay, so let's put this on here and oh, there we go, tighten that down. Right, let's just make sure they are loose. I don't think they need to be that loose because they're like an interference fit. Right, okay, so need a bit of paper. Right, so remove the resin tank, blah blah blah, and click move Z axis to 0. Let's go back to the start. So we're doing this in order. So, right, tool, manual, Z axis. It must be that one, the home button. So right, let's put this bit of paper on. It doesn't fit. Oh, God's sake. Right, let's cut this down a bit. Oh. Never rains but it pours. Right, let's put that there. I can't see the thing now. Home. Right, and down it comes. And I'll tell you what, it makes a lot less noise than my old printer. Right, so that's stopped. Okay. Make sure it's in the central position and fasten it using the Allen wrench. Right, so basically we need to make sure this is straight and square. And then yeah, that's going to be interesting. Right, so and then it says push it down or hold it down and tighten it up. Right, so let's just nip these up. Now I don't want to over tighten them, although they are quite big chunky screws, but I think they're screwed into aluminium, so I'll just nip them up like that. Okay. Since tightening the screws plate will change the tightness when pulling out the A4 paper, you need to calibrate. If there is no resistance or only a few resistance when pulling out the paper, click to descend the Z-axis at a distance of 0.1 millimeters. If the paper cannot be pulled out or the resistance is very high, raise the Z-axis. Right, well that won't come out at all. So let's say, right, so 0.1 up. Right, okay. So I think that's that done. Oh, and I actually got that bang on straight. Look at that. Perfect. Okay, so after the above leveling is complete, set the current Z-axis position as the initial height. Return to the previous interface and click set Z equals 0. This reset 0 position, continue, confirm. Right, so that's done that. Next page. Press 10mm. Yeah, I think we need to go back to manual, which it didn't tell us to do. So this is what I've said before about writing manuals. Make sure it's idiot proof, because it doesn't tell you that you have to press the manual button again. It just says, oh, press 10mm. But you see, we're on this screen here. There is no 10mm option. Write manuals carefully. Right, so you need to go into the manual settings, 10mm, and go up. Press it 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it is indeed going up. Going up. Oh, there's fluff all over that. Get off. Right, put back the resin tank and fasten the screws. Now I'm also assuming, because it says on here, step 1, peel this film off before printing, that I'm supposed to do this before I put the resin tank back on. But once again, it doesn't actually say that in the instructions. So that's useful. Good grief. This manual's not very good. They're missing out like really basic steps. Anyway, right. Test the UV lights by pressing tool exposure next. Now again, it's not told us to go back. So there's exposure. Please set the exposure time of the test image. 200 seconds. A bit long, isn't it? Alright, well, whatever. Next. Start exposure. Right. Everything seems to be lighting up. See, they should tell you to do this before you put this on, so you can actually look down onto the thing and see what it's doing. Oh god, that's bright. This UV. Right, okay. Well, they're all working anyway. Let's just go back. Right. So, now put the resin tank on. But we'll peel this off first before we put that on, won't we? That seems like a good idea. Ooh, static. Right, now the tank has got this maximum fill level bit on it, so we'll put that at the back so we can see it. So let's pop that in there. Oh, all this metal to metal contact is putting my teeth on edge. Right, now what I'm also going to do is I want to make sure this is going to clear the tank, so I'm just going to drop it down and I want to make sure it's going to clear. I think it is, but I just want to make sure. So I'll just take it down so it's kind of just below the level of the top of the tank. I suppose I could just press home, couldn't I, but I want to be able to control it in case it goes pear-shaped. Right, that's fine, it's miles away from it. Right, so let's move that back up again. Plug the USB into your printer, wear the mask and gloves and add resin slowly to 1/3 of the level of the tank. Avoid direct contact with your skin. Select model file rook dot whatever that is and start printing. Put the cover on and avoid direct sunlight and make sure the printer is leveled and not shaky. Should you not do that before you put the resin? I wonder what capacity this USB stick is. Now one of the things they've done with this, and this is one of the reasons I chose this one over the standard Mars, is the USB port is on the front. On the Mars it's on the back. So this it seems like a much better idea. Right, which way around does that go? It goes that way. So let's pop that in there. Like that. Let's move that around a bit. Although interestingly, I've noticed a lot of people have said this would be better if it had an SD card slot so that you haven't got this sticking out the front. Yeah, kind of. I mean, my old one had an SD card slot. I don't think it makes that much difference. The only thing is here you've got something sticking out the front, so you've got to be a little bit careful. Okay, so let's sort out this top cover. I'll put the gasket and that on, and then we'll go from there. The funny thing is, this is covered in cling film to protect it. I almost don't want to take it off to keep the dust off. I might even just leave it on there. I might just leave that on there and not bother taking it off for now. Right, yeah. So I'll leave that cling film on there for now because obviously this being plastic, it will pick up dust, something rotten. Right, gloves. Do you know what I'm actually going to do? I'm going to take this build plate off of here for a minute while I put the resin in. I find it's a lot easier with that out of the way. Now, I have got the ventilation on in here. I've got the extractor fan on, so it's all good. For resin, I'm actually going to use this. This is Anycubic resin, but it's basically exactly the same as theirs, so it should work. Now, this is what I've got to be careful of, is I don't want to get this all over the place. Let's just move everything out of the way so we don't get anything untoward happening. Right, so it says fill it a third of the tank. Let me get a bit of tissue to catch any drips. Because what I do not want to do, and it's one of the things I want to be really careful with this one, is the other printer started getting a bit sticky. And I don't really want that to happen with this one, so right, I think that'll do us. Let's catch those drips, because I have actually had another bottle of this Anycubic resin, and it's good stuff, but what tends to happen is if you're not careful, you get it coming out from under the threads when you put the lid on. It all runs down the side and just coats the whole bottle in resin, uncured resin. Right, now we don't want to muck about too much with this because this is UV sensitive. So let's get this, just make sure that build plate's clean. Put that back on there. And I'll leave the cover off for a minute while I just hit start. So let's go back, back. Right, we want print. Slicer software, blah blah blah. Models offered by my mini factory, whatever, I don't want any of that. Elegoo Mars, machine parameters, G code. No. We're looking for something called Rook. Slicing software. No. I'm not finding it. Oh, there we go. Elegoo. How did I miss that before? Elegoo Mars Rook.ctb. That's what we're looking for. Oh well, soon got there eventually. And print. Right. Oh, I think you have to press that one. Ah, there it goes. That dust off of there. I'll tell you what, it's a lot quieter than my other printer. That was very sort of rattly. Right, here we go. Contact. Oh, I see. It shows you down here what layer it's printing. That's quite cool, actually. Right. Okay. So we'll put the cover on and we'll come back when it's done. See you in a bit. Right, so 3 hours and 27 minutes later, it's saying printing done. Except the printing is not done, because take this off without it dripping everywhere, but there's nothing on the build plate, which leads me to suspect that it's all stuck to the bottom of the tank. And in fact, I can see in the tank there are a couple of ominous shapes in the resin. So basically what's happened is, instead of sticking to the build plate, it's stuck to the bottom of the tank, which is disappointing, I have to say. Okay, so what we'll have to do is empty out the tank, obviously get the stuck pieces out, have a look at them and see what's happened. So I'll do that, and then we'll come back. Right, and as I suspected, it's stuck to the bottom of the tank. But the interesting thing is, I don't know if you can see that on the there is some detail on the side of those pieces. So I think what it's done is, it's not like it hasn't stuck to the build plate at all. It's stuck to the build plate for about 4 or 5 millimeters, and then it's come unstuck and stuck to the bottom of the tank instead. So I must confess, I'm not quite sure what to do with this information. My instinct is to re-level the bed and try it again, but I think I'll clean out the tank, and we'll see, get these pieces out, and I'll re-level the bed, and I don't know, maybe try it again. Right, so let me fill you in on where we are so far. I tried several times to print the test print. It failed. It failed in basically the same fashion each time. And let me show you. So basically, what I was getting were these, like the base, but I don't know if you can see that very well or not. Come on, focus. There is actually some detail on the side. So basically, what I think it was doing is, it was printing the first 4 or 5 millimeters, and then it was coming unstuck and sticking to the bottom of the tank, which was useful. So I went on to the Elegoo Facebook page, like the group. I joined the group, I explained what was happening, and I asked for some help. Lots of people responded very helpfully. It seems this is a very common problem, which didn't exactly fill me with joy, but there we go. So I learnt a few things, so in no particular order. Apparently, the test print file is notorious for failing, so that's useful. It's also the fact that I was trying to print it with black resin, which takes longer to cure. Now, I didn't know that, but I was kind of hoping it would work anyway. So there was that. So I thought what I would do is I would try a different file that I've printed before on my old printer, and it worked, well, kind of worked. And that did exactly the same thing. Great. This is really not my day. So what I did was, I had some grey resin left, a little tiny bit, basically like barely enough to cover the bottom of the tank. And I tried to print that same file again with the grey resin. And it's finished. And I haven't looked at it yet. I haven't taken the cover off the printer yet, because I thought we could do that together. You know, so but there's something on the build plate, so that's a step in the right direction. So let me put some gloves on. We'll take the cover off and we'll see what we've got. So off with the cover. Let's pop that over there for a minute. Gloves. I apologise for the background noise if you can hear it. One of my neighbours has suddenly decided to do something very noisy, which at this time of the evening is probably a bit of a cheek actually, but never mind. Right, let's have a look. Let's see what we've got. Ooh, we have a wolf. We do. And all the supports are there. Now, okay, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to wash it off, take it off the build plate, and then we'll have a look at it so that we can compare it. But it has actually worked, so it's printed with the grey resin. Now the only trouble is, I don't know if you can see that, but that's all the grey resin I've got left is what's in there now. There's barely any in there, but it has worked, so yay. Okay, let me as I say, I'll clean this up and then we'll have a closer look at it. Okay, so here we are, our first successful print. It's a wolf that came from Thingiverse, I believe. I'll see if I can remember to find the link and put it below if anyone's interested. It's a really nice model actually. Now, the reason I'm showing you this before I've cleaned it up is there's something in particular I just wanted to show you quickly. Now, I have printed these before. This is one that I printed on my old printer, and very quickly I just want to show you, if you look at its feet, they're sitting on the support plates, right? And that was because of a limitation on that printer. Now if you look, you can see the supports are where I placed them, and it's lifted up off the build plate. And also notice how thin that lower plate is. If I just get the other one back in, I don't know whether you can see that, but that is like half the thickness. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut the supports off, and I'm going to go and put it in, I'm going to cure it under a UV light, and then I'll bring it back and we'll go through the detail on this one and compare it to the one from my old printer, and then you'll see why I wanted a new printer. Right, so here he is. I've had him in the UV light for about 20 minutes. So, and now we can have a look and see exactly what he looks like. And I think you will agree. Let's see how close I can get him so you can really see it. That doesn't look too bad at all. I mean, just as a side by side, this is the other one again. And to be fair, for a low resolution early gen printer, this is quite a good result. I was quite pleased with this. But if we have a look at it, I mean, I'll tell you what, actually, I'm going to go and put some primer on this to give us a fair side by side comparison. Back in a second. Right, there we go, that's more like it. So, again, let's see if we can do a side-by-side comparison of these. Now, I think if you look at his face in particular, you can see, I mean, look at the definition around the eyes and the ears, the fur. I mean, if you look at this, just the fur in general, but especially like if you look at, trying to hold both of them at once. If you look here and here, you can see a massive difference in the level of detail. And also on his hindquarters there, if you look at his leg and his thigh and hip, the detail on there is so much better defined. And there was details that I didn't even notice on the original, like here he actually has ribs. I don't know if you can see those at all, but you see he has ribs, and like this definition in the muscle, which is It's kind of here on this one, but not really. Oh, come on, focus camera. Let's at least try and give it a fair crack. But the most important thing for me is if you look at this one here, if you look around here, you can see there's like a double lip, if you like. And down the back, it's got like a line all down his back. Now, if you compare that to this one, you can see that it's not there, and it's not meant to be there. This is the model as it should be. And you can also see he's noticeably narrower. He's quite a chunky boy, and he isn't. So yeah, and again, like this side, the tail as well, you can see how much sharper everything is. I mean, if you look at the legs and the feet especially, I mean, if you look at these feet here and see how much detail there is on the feet, the claws and everything, and then if you look at this one, there's not nearly as much definition. And again, the side of his face on this side, it's just, it's chalk and cheese, really, the difference. And again, in his mouth is so much better defined. And the other thing, again, this whole doubling up thing that I've mentioned before with this printer. If you look at this, you can see here we have one fang on each side. On here we have two fangs on each side, which isn't what you want because it makes him look a bit buck-toothed, quite frankly. So yeah, I think we can agree that this is just streets ahead of this one. And like I said, to be fair to this, this is a low resolution, very early generation, you know, cheap 3D printer that was designed to be low priced. This is the evolution of the technology, as it were. So now for a similar price point to this one, what this one was new, you can now get this level of detail. So I think despite all of the faff we've had setting this up, and I'm marking it down for that, quite frankly, it's not very user friendly. Now that we've kind of got it working, and it's going to take a while for me to get it 100% dialed in, but considering this was, you know, the problems I had with this were purely like settings related. It wasn't anything like a physical problem with the machine. I'm very, very, very pleased with how this has come out. I'm going to print a few more things, and we'll have a look at those and see how we get on, and then I think we'll wrap this up. Okay, so the actual printing process here, I've got the printer on, obviously it's got plenty of resin in it, it's all ready to go. So I put the USB stick in, press print, and it basically shows you all the files that are on the USB stick, and it will show you every file. There's some other stuff like some Word documents and stuff on here, it will show you those as well. Obviously it won't print those. So then you pick the one you want, which is that one. In this case, it shows you a little preview, and then you press print, and it starts printing. Now, down here at the bottom, you see it shows you the layer that it's printing, and you see it's there. It says 1 of 602. Now, it's also got the file name, the percentage complete, and it also shows you how much time has elapsed and how much time is remaining, and I have found that is actually very accurate, which kind of isn't surprising because it's all based on exposure times and lift distances and so on and so forth, and those are not difficult things to calculate. So it's basically just a case of adding up all of the exposure times and all of the time the bed spends moving, and, you know, adding it all together. Now over here we've got some other controls. We've got the top one is stop, which basically if you press that, it will literally give you a confirmation saying, do you want to stop? You say yes, and it just basically aborts the print and lifts the build plate back up. Here we have a pause button. Now, I can see this being quite handy. I've only used it once to see if it worked, which it did. But basically, if you press pause, it will stop printing, lift the bed up about 100 mil, and then just stop and wait. And then when you press the play button again, it drops back down and it carries on printing. And then down the bottom here, we've got some settings. This basically just tells you what it's doing. So they're not actually setting it, it's just like the settings of the file rather than like the machine settings. And that's really all there is to it. Now we just wait for 3 hours and 2 minutes and it should be finished. Okay, just while that's printing, I just wanted to go roughly through like the way I've got this set up at the moment. As I say, this is not where the printer's going to stay, but this is the equipment that I'm going to be using with it. So I need to find space for all of this. So basically, I've got this plastic tray here, which I bought from the Works. They're craft trays, they call them. They come in a pack of 3, and it's just a plastic tray. And so when I take things off the printer, I can put them in that tray, and if they drip or anything like that, it doesn't matter. So I usually just put a bit of kitchen paper in there first, just to make it a bit easier to clean up, and then I can put stuff in there. I can take the pieces off the build plate and everything else. I can leave the build plate there. It doesn't matter if it drips or anything. It's all contained in there. This container is isopropyl alcohol with, you can see in there's a paintbrush. I use that for cleaning up the print. So what I'll generally do is I'll take them off the build plate, give them a quick rinse first, then use the clippers to remove the supports and then wash them properly. And then after that they go into this container, which is just water, and that's just to rinse the alcohol off. And then I put them back in the tray, let them drain, and then they go off and get cured. So that's that. Now over here on the other side of the printer, I've got gloves, obviously. I tend to use the gloves as much as I can. I don't just use them once and throw them away. Unless they get absolutely disgusting, I tend to keep using them. So, what you can do is, like, once you've cleaned up a print or whatever, you can just, wipe them down with a bit of tissue, and they'll usually be fine to use several times before you need to get rid of them. Here's the build plate holder. I really don't know what they call that, but it's very useful. I do use that. So I keep that there. And then I've got kitchen roll. I've got a roll here. I've got another couple of rolls spare. And at the back of the table that you can't see, there's also a couple of bottles of resin. So this is basically everything that I need to do the printing. So yeah, I just got to find space for all of this now. You'll also notice that over the back there are some supports, and you might think, well, why have you still got those? Well, what I do is I actually keep those because they're quite useful. Let me just get in a bit closer and I'll show you. So if we take a look at these, like this piece for example, what does that look like? Looks like girders and pipes and things, doesn't it? So these are actually very good to use for scratch building and stuff like that. So that's why I keep them. It's like this one as well. You see, I don't tend to do a lot of sci-fi stuff or futuristic stuff, but it's all useful. But these are just some of the things, and they're made exactly the same way as the rest of the print. So what I do is when I take them off the model, they've had a quick wash anyway to get the worst of the resin off, and then I just leave them on the side on the table here, and they can just cure in their own time in the sunlight. So, and then you can just put them in a box. I've got a box full of these, and you can use them for whatever you want. Anyway, so that's the table setup. Let's go and have a look at some prints now. See what I've printed over the last few days, and then I think we'll do a bit of a summary and a wrap up. Okay, so I've had this printer now, what is it? It was delivered on last Friday. It's now Wednesday afternoon, so I've had this for a few days. And I just wanted to show you some of the things that I've printed and, you know, how they come out. So I think the first one to show you is this. This is a little dragon. I've actually done quite a few of these on my filament printer, much larger, because my daughter is quite enamoured of them. So yeah, and I mean, he's come out really well. He looks fantastic. Very happy with that. I should say actually all the models I'm going to show you are not 100% cleaned up. I've pretty much done no more than remove the supports and spray them with a bit of grey primer. But yeah, so he's very good, very happy with that. This came from Thingiverse, I think. If you search for cute dragon, you'll find this. But anyway, that's part of the point. So that was just that. Now, I've printed quite a few things. Some of the things I bought the STLs, and some of them were free. So I'll try and remember where I got them all from as I go along. Now, one of the things that I've done is a modular set of wardrobes from Black Scroll Games. And this is, you've seen me, I backed one of their Kickstarters and I got a load of buildings, which you've seen in previous videos. But also there are furnishings and whatnot for the videos. So one of the ones I printed on this is this. This is a modular cabinet system. And you can see it's come out very nice. Like, you know, wood grain texture inside and out. It looks very good. You know, the detail is amazing. Now, how does this thing work? Well, you get all these bits with it. So it comes with a variety of basically shelves. And you can mix and match these shelves. This is not all of them, this is just a small selection. But let's say, for example, you wanted to do a tavern scene. Then you can put, you know, there's some barrels and there's some bottles and a pot and a teapot. So you can put those in like that, and there you go. You've got a tavern thing. You could also do like the same thing with a kitchen. So if we take the bottles out, for example, and pop that one in instead, like that, then we've got like a kitchen or something. Same again, we can take these out, and if I put this in at the bottom, so this is something that they supply. There's it's like a two cupboard unit. There's also one that has drawers in it. There's also one that has a full front cabinet. So I can put these in, for example, like this, and there you go, library or wizards something, you know. But anyway, that's that. Now the great thing about these ones, and I do tend to sing their praises. I've got no affiliation with them. I just really like what they do. Everything they supply, and I think this is important to note, is designed to be printed without supports. Whether it's on a resin printer or a filament printer, you can literally just print it. You don't need to mess about with supports. So that's really good. And all of these things printed as you see them now. They've literally just had some primer sprayed on them. They've come off the build plate and had a bit of primer on them. That's it. So that's that. So that's good. And again, it's like this. You can see, I mean, I'll try and show as much detail as I can, but like labels on the bottles. And again, that's quite impressive anyway, but it's also the fact that it's printed, the labels on the bottles, and, you know, the fact they're open. And again, the teapot there has a little lid and everything. You know, it's just, the level of detail this thing is capable of is amazing. Now, what else have we got? Oh, these. So these are a couple of chests. These came from My Mini Factory, I think. And I think these were free. So it's basically a closed chest and an open chest, you know, full of treasure. Now, one mistake I made with these is these handles are supposed to be round. and they should have had a support on them, and I didn't put a support on them. But again, if you look at the level of detail in that wood, and I think, to be honest, it speaks to the skill of the person who made these, as much as the skill, you know, like the technical ability of the printer to print them. So, and again, it's like this. If you look at, I mean, look at the coins in there. It's absolutely amazing. And also, the detail, you can't really see it very well, the detail actually extends to the inside of the lid. You see, absolutely amazing. So, yeah, again, the handles, that was me. But I did actually paint one up, and it's this. So this is a mimic chest. So basically it's a chest, and when you open it, it tries to bite your head off. So I painted this one just because I could. Now this one, the print actually didn't work properly, and you can see, if we compare these, you can see the shape of the lid isn't correct. But again, this is my fault, not the printer's fault. I didn't put enough supports on it. So, but I mean, you know, it's the bottom of the lid. It's not really that noticeable. I am actually printing another one with more supports. But, I mean, look at the detail on the teeth, like the inside of the mouth. He's actually got a palette, you know, on the inside of his mouth. And the detail in the gums and all the rest of it. Absolutely amazing. It's brilliant. I love it. Right, so let's put those to one side. What else have we got? So, yes, goblins. These goblins, I'll try and get you a decent picture of each one. These were a set of STLs that I bought from my mini factory, and I think they cost about £5 something. And it's basically a set of goblins. This is not all of them. There are a few more. These are just the ones I printed. But again, I just wanted to talk about the detail on this. I mean, you look at this figure of the chef, which I thought was, this is actually one of the reasons I bought this set, because he's so comical. But I don't know if I can get it. Let's see how close we can get it so you can see it. But it's like, if you look at the cleaver, for example, firstly, the hole in the cleaver is there, okay? And you can see, hopefully, the score marks on the blade. You can see the detail of the rope round his chest, his apron, the wart on his nose. It's absolutely amazing what this printer is able to do. And this, I mean, look at this. Oh, hang on, I'll try and get it in focus. There's actually slots in the spatula. I mean, that is, to me, absolutely astonishing that it's able to do that. Now, again, there was a slight issue with this. I didn't put enough supports on his hands. You can see his knuckles are a bit funny. But that was me, again, not the. Oh, that one's coming off. They're just stuck on with a bit of blue tack. But it's absolutely amazing. And again, like with this one, you can see like the scores on his armor, on his blade. You know, it's just crazy. I mean, the level of detail is astonishing. And like I said, I honestly think that, certainly for things like miniatures and stuff like that, I think 3D printing is going to be the way forwards. So, but anyway, let's put those to one side for a minute, because there's a couple more. Actually, one of the ones I wanted to show you from the same set is this guy here. Now, this is like he's dual wielding the swords, or whatever they are. But there's this one here. This is a failed print. And if you look, you can see his arm's not right. And basically what happened was the supports came away from the sword blade, and it's basically like pulled his arm off. So if you look at the two of them side by side, you can see the way it should look, and you can see the way it's come out. And again, that was basically me having to learn how to do supports. And this is, I think, the most important thing with this printer, and I think it's going to be the same with any printer, is figuring out how to do supports properly. The slicing software will do the supports for you, but it tends to be a bit, shall we say, over enthusiastic with supports, and it will absolutely cover it in supports from head to toe. So yeah, and the other thing with this one, again, this was a mistake that I made. You'll notice there are no supports on his face, and if you look at his chin and his nose, they're not formed properly. And it's basically on this one, when I printed it, he had a support running from the end of his nose and from his chin to give it that little bit extra. I did actually do his ears on this one, which you should do, but that's the kind of thing you have to think about when you're doing the supports. So that's that. Another one that failed in a similar fashion here. This is all part of the same set. So I think you'll agree, for a £5, it's a pretty good deal. Is this wolf? Now, here's the wolf as he should be, and he looks fantastic. I love his big snarly mouth he's got on him. But this one obviously hasn't worked quite so well. As you can see, it hasn't printed his face properly, and also I don't know if you can see that, but on his knees, it hasn't printed those parts properly, and you can see on here it has, and that was because I needed to add supports here and here, and also more supports under his chin to support his head while it was printing. So again, something to keep in mind. Now, of course, why have we got this wolf? Okay, yes, it's a wolf, it's fantastic, but we've also got this guy to go with him, which is a wolf rider. So he goes on the back of yon wolf, like so. You have to kind of, yeah, get on there. Let's get him in the proper place. There he is, and he just sits on the back there like that. But the thing I really like about this, and the way the guy has designed this, is the fact that the wolf and the rider are separate. So you can have, just a wolf, or you can have a wolf with a rider on it. You see. So yeah, but again, the detail, I mean, again, if you look at his face, you can see his teeth and his gums and all the rest of it. It's just the tufts of hair in his ears. It's just absurd, the level of detail that it's capable of. What else have we got? Oh yeah, so we've got this chap here. This is a bugbear. And I can't remember this one. It did come from My Mini Factory, I think, but I can't remember exactly where from. But again, looking at the detail on this, I mean, on the end of the haft of his weapon, there's a chain with individual links, and I was terrified when I was cutting the supports off, because I was just sure it was going to snap off. And again, like this hook hanging off, he's got a few of these hooks hanging off, but this one's just way out there on its own. But it's like, again, look at the detail in the fur, in his face. It's just amazing that this printer is capable of that. You can actually, I don't know if you can actually see his eyes, his eyeballs. Crazy. Now I'm going to show you a couple more, and then we'll wrap this up. So this one, oh dear, this is the largest print I've done to date, and this is a horse, obviously. And the reason I did this horse, I actually printed one of these on my filament printer, and it actually came out not terrible. This one is, so I've printed the same model again on the Mars, because I wanted to A, see how well it would come out, and B, because the last one I did, I painted it up to look like one of the Mrs. horses, and she's asked me to do another one of her horses, so that's why I've done this. But you see, what's interesting about this, and the reason I'm showing you this one, is this is a big model. This is, like I say, this is the biggest one I've done, and it's interesting that if you look at it from the feet upwards, the detail here, the level of detail is fine. And then as we go further up towards the top, you can see, when we start getting up to his neck, you can see these layer lines start appearing in his neck and his head. And it's basically, because you've got to remember, he's printing upside down, so he's like that. and he's being dipped repeatedly into the resin, and he's coming off, being pulled off the thing. And what's happening is by the time you get to this point, there's a lot of weight here. And I think what's happening is, because again it could probably do with more supports on the neck and the head, because it's basically pulling the layers apart, you see. So again, this is, I think, my fault, not the printer's fault. When I'm doing big prints like this, I need to think about things like that. But look at the detail in his face. It's crazy. His eyes, his ears, absolutely astonishing. Anyway, now I also want to show you this one. This is one I did on my old printer, and it's a disaster. Basically, it's not a very good print at all. This was one that came from Hero Forge. It's a website where you can design your own miniatures and download them. So this is one my daughter designed. I think I've mentioned the kids have expressed an interest in Dungeons and Dragons, and this was like her rendition of her character. And it's awful. And that's one of the main reasons I bought this new printer, was to get away from this. So this is old, and this one is new. So look at the difference. This is a first generation, very early first generation resin printer, and this is what we're capable of today. Now, it's just, again, it's chalk and cheese, and I hope you can see all that. But if you look at the difference, for example, I mean, obviously she has a proper face this time, which is nice, but you can see the buttons on the shirt. Let's get rid of this one for a minute and just focus on this one. But you've got the buttons on the shirt, you've got the belt loops, the creases in her trousers. Oh, there you go, that's a bit brighter, you can see it now. But yeah, it's just ridiculous. I mean, look at it. And the dragon, even the dragon's got eyeballs. Absolutely nuts. And the squirrels on the base have eyeballs. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the level of detail. Yeah, crazy. And there's another one. This is the last one, I promise, because this is going on for way too long. But this is the same figure, but in a different setup. And this is because my daughter has decided that for Dungeons and Dragons she wants to play as a tabaxi, because she likes cats, and she wants to play as a druid. And I know the tabaxi are not ideally suited to be druids, but I don't care, because that's what she wants to do, and you know, we'll make it work. So I don't want anyone in the comments saying, "Oh, tabaxi can't be druids," because I'll just ignore you. But again, so this is basically the same outfit as the other one, the trousers and the shirt, but with a jacket or a coat over the top, and a backpack and some weapons. Like I say, this does need to be cleaned up a little bit more. Obviously you can see there where I took the supports off. So it does need a little bit more cleaning up. But again, just trying to get it as close as possible. There we go. Just look at the detail on that backpack. You can see the buckles. It's just absolutely astonishing, the level of detail this thing is capable of. You can see the wrappings on the spear haft. Absolutely mad. And you know, like as a comparison, this is one I bought. This is a tabaxi that I bought from a well-known, apparently well-known miniature supplier. This is one of the first miniatures that I've bought. I bought 2 of them. They came as a set. And these are the first miniatures I have bought probably in decades. And it's like they can, oh yes, they're all primed and ready to paint out of the box. And they're really not. at all. I mean, if you look at that, you can see the flashing on it. There are mould lines everywhere. There's a big lump of something there that needs to be cut off. And quite frankly, it looks like the primer's been put on with a roller. So, yeah, and it's shiny. Look how glossy the primer is. How are you going to paint over that? So what I've got to do with these now is basically strip the primer off and then clean them up. So that's not really helpful. And this one I've actually started doing. And you can still see, you know, mould lines all over it and whatnot. It's just, yeah, not really very good. But I say this, I think this is where I'm gonna end as far as talking about the miniatures. I say this is Hero Forge. So this is the same character. Let's get the other one back in quickly. So it's the same character in 2 different poses with different equipment. They were relatively expensive. I mean, these STLs were $8 each. But you can basically have almost anything you want. You can make any pose you want. It's like, you know, it's got squirrels on the base. And I genuinely think this is going to be the future, or a very strong future for miniatures. Is going to be stuff like this. But anyway, let's wrap this up and go over some final conclusions. So the Elegoo Mars Pro. What do we think of it? I think, to summarise, after having this for nearly a week, would I buy this again, knowing what I know now? Absolutely yes, 100%. I have been absolutely blown away with the level of detail this thing is able to produce. Now, I can't compare it to other, you know, printers of a similar price bracket and all the rest of it, because I don't have one to compare it to. I can only talk about this particular printer and my old printer, and it's the difference is absolutely staggering. So there's that. It does have some downsides, but that's mainly in the documentation and supporting paraphernalia, shall we say. The manual it has some issues, and again, for someone I think who's never used a printer before, or perhaps isn't very technically minded, they could possibly struggle with this thing. Now, you might say, well, they're not designed for people like that, but they are. I mean, these things are being sold on Amazon to anybody, and they're much more affordable than they used to be. So to say, oh, you know, these things are supposed to, I mean, you look at their own blurb and they're like, oh yeah, it's so easy, and you know, so, but to do that you need to have the documentation to support it. Now, having said that, once you get past those hurdles, I think this is, you know, quite amazing. I think the main issue that I'm going to have with this is figuring out supports, and again, that's just something that will come with experience. It's exactly the same on my filament printer. Figuring out ways to minimize the number of supports to make cleanup easier, but at the same time giving it sufficient support so you don't end up with failures. And so far, every failure I've had, I think, has been my fault, not the fault of the printer. So there's that. Would I recommend this printer to someone else? Yeah, I would. Absolutely. I think even as a novice, if you've never used a 3D printer before, I think providing you've got a bit of common sense, you shouldn't have any problems setting this thing up and being able to get some good prints out of it. And the other thing I will say is, when I was having problems initially with this printing, which I talked about earlier, I went onto the Facebook page and lots of support, lots of help. People, you know, not the company necessarily, but other users So these are people that, you know, have in many cases been through the same experience, and so they can say, oh yeah, I had that, this is how I fixed it. So, you know, it's good to know that that level of support is out there. So yeah, would I recommend this? As I said, yes, I would. Is it better than any of the other printers that are out there at the moment? I honestly have no idea, because this is the only one I've tried. But based on what I've seen of this, and I still can't get over the slots in that spatula, it's just absurd. I would recommend this. It's quite an expensive thing to get into. Obviously the printer is quite expensive, the resin is quite expensive. I mean, I've just ordered, or I've just taken delivery of another bottle of resin that's actually Elegoo's own brand, which apparently is supposed to be really good stuff. I've not used it yet, I don't know, but it's supposed to be good. But that was 30 something pounds. So I think with the printer and the resin, I've spent about £300 to get started. Plus a few extra bits and pieces, you know, like you're going to need isopropyl alcohol, you're going to need gloves, you're going to need lots and lots of kitchen roll. So those are all things to take into account. You're going to need somewhere to put this thing where it's well ventilated, even though it does, the filtering on it, I'll give it that. Whatever this filter is they've put on this new one, it works. You really can't smell it at all, I have to say. Whereas previously I had to, you know, if I opened the door to the workshop after I'd had the old printer running, the smell of the resin would hit you. And on this one it doesn't. But that's not to say there are not stinky things. The isopropyl alcohol has a very pungent odour, and it will actually, you can, if you don't ventilate it, you can actually feel it like burning your throat and the back of your nose. So you will need ventilation. You do need to use the safety equipment that comes with it. You need gloves. You should also ideally wear safety glasses, because you really don't want to get any of this stuff in your eyes. And again, like when you're cleaning up the prints with a brush or whatever and you're sloshing around, it'd be very easy to get a drop of alcohol or resin or something, flick out and hit you in the eye. So you need gloves, you need safety glasses, you need ventilation or a good respirator, or both, even better. So those are all things to take into account when you buy this stuff, if you choose to buy one of these. And on that subject, I'm going to put a link to this printer on Amazon, and this is where I ordered it from. Obviously you can buy them in other places. I'm going to put an affiliate link in. What that basically means, it won't cost you a penny extra, but what it does do is Amazon will give me a very, very tiny percentage of the money. So if you are interested in buying one of these and you want to help support the channel, that's one way of doing it. Obviously there's also the Patreon, hint hint, if anybody's feeling a bit flush, you know, feel free to pop over there and sign up and join the gang. There's some stuff on there that I don't put on YouTube, and also it's you know, it's just one of those things. It's just a way of showing a bit of support, if you can. So yeah, you know, if you want to help out, it would be greatly appreciated. I'll stop rambling on about money. So the final conclusion of this video is, if you have been tempted by resin printers, and especially if you're doing anything like this, miniatures, model railways, anything like that, I would seriously consider looking at a resin 3D printer. It is quite an expensive thing to buy, but I think the thing to bear in mind is, like for example with these goblins, you know, I paid what, £5 or something for these, but that's for all of these plus a few more. Where the wolf and the rider, so him as well. So it's all of these guys, and again there are a couple of others that are on the printer now, and that was a £5. And I can print these now as many as I want. So if I wanted a big massive goblin army, I can just print loads of them, and you know, be done with it. And it's the same thing. It's like if you're doing model railways or something like that, you can print out carriages or whatever model railway people do. Honestly, I don't know, but you know, you get the idea. If you're doing little fiddly bits, and obviously you can design things for yourself. You know, there are programs like Tinkercad and that out there where you can make things for yourself, should you so desire. So hopefully a few of you are still around at the end of this video. If you are, I appreciate you hanging around. I hope this video has been of interest to some of you. I know a lot of people have expressed an interest in 3D printing before. So this has been it, a genuine new user's experience with the Elegoo Mars Pro 3D printer. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers. Bye.